Sukkah, Perek Daled, Mishnah Tes. Nisuch Hamayim Ketzad. How did they perform the mitzvah of Nisuch Hamayim, which was the water libation? Tzloichis shel zohov. There was a container, a flagon, a bottle made of gold. Machzekes shloishes lugin, which contained 3 lug. Just to understand what that meant, a normal Kiddush cup would be the size, let's say a revius, which is a quarter of a lug. So this container was 12 times that amount. And hoyu mamale, he would fill min hashiluach, from the shiluach. The shiluach, explains the Bartanura, was a mayon hasomuch Yerushalayim. It was a fountain of water near Yerushalayim. And they would bring it back to Yerushalayim. Higiu l'shar hamayim. When they reached the gate called the Shar Hamayim, this was one of the gates going into the Beis HaMikdash, and this was on the southern side. So as they reached that gate, the Shar Hamayim, Toku vehiriu v'soku. They blew a tekiah, a teruah, another tekiah. So Bartanura mentions, Posuk in Yeshaya, Usha'aftem mayim b'soson. You should draw water with joy. So this was part of the joyous celebration of the Nisuch Hamayim. Then Olov HaKevesh, the Kohen selected to do this mitzvah, went up the ramp. The ramp was also on the southern side, going from the south up towards the Mizbeach. So Olov HaKevesh, he would go up the ramp. Ufono lismoiloi. When he got to the top of the ramp, now on the Mizbeach, he turned to his left. His left, therefore, now towards the western side. Shnei sefolim shel kesef hoyushon. At the corner, there were 2 silver bowls. Rabbi Yehuda Omer shel sid hoyu. They weren't silver, but they were of plaster. Elo shehoyu mushchorim peneim. They're outside because of the wine that was poured in, and sometimes the wine would have been poured in either of these, although only one was the correct place to pour it. Nevertheless, because of the wine, they had become a darker colour. Now these bowls, munukovin kemin shnei chut min dakin. They had 2 chutmin protruding from the bowls, or like 2 chutmin, like nostrils, with 2 holes in. Each of these bowls had a hole. Echod mu'uba ve'echod dak. One was wider and one was narrower. Why was this? They were going to be pouring wine into one of them, and the other one, water would be poured in. Now, the consistency of wine is much thicker. They were pouring the same amount into each of these bowls, but they wanted it to come to the end as it came out through the hole. As the Bartanura says, it would then come out of the wider or narrower hole, nostril. It would then come to the gag of the Mizbeach, to the gag of the Mizbeach, which means the roof of the Mizbeach. The person was standing, pouring into the 2 bowls. The the water and the wine would descend and come to the gag, the roof of the Mizbeach, but it should reach that point, both the water and the wine, at the same time. As the wine is of thicker consistency, it therefore needed to have a wider hole to enable the wine and the water to reach the gag of the Mizbeach at the same time. From there, explains the Bartanura, the water and the wine together would go down, there would be a hole that would take the water and the wine to what's called the Shisin Shel Mizbeach, to the depths, very low down, and they will both be together mixed at this point. Says the Mishnah, there were Shnei Chot Min Dakin, Echod Me'uba Ve'echod Dak, one wider and one narrower, as we explained. Kedei Sheyu Shneim Kalin B'Vasachas, that they should both come through the bowls plus the nostril-like container, and then actually get to the gag of the Mizbeach at the same time. Which bowl was used for the water and which for the wine, which is normally used for the korbanos? Ma'arovi shel mayim. Again, the Kohen had come up the ramp, he turned to his left. The ramp was on the southern side going up. As he turns to his left, he's therefore moving towards the west. Ma'arovi shel mayim means the more westerly bowl. That was used for the water. Mizrachi, the one on the eastern side, they were next to each other, the two bowls, that was used for wine. Ira shel mayim l'such shel yayin, if he poured the water into the bowl which was meant to be used for wine, or shel yayin b'such shel mayim, or he poured the wine into the bowl that should have been for water, yotza, then he would have fulfilled the obligation. Continues the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Omer belug hoye manasech kol shmoina. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees about 2 points. Number one, we mentioned earlier that the Kohen was pouring 3 lug. Rabbi Yehuda says no, it was only 1 lug. And it was kol shmoina, it was all 8 days, including therefore Shmini Atzeres. The Mishnah concludes, the person who was actually pouring, they would tell him, Hag be yodcha, lift up your hand. Why? To ensure that this Kohen was actually pouring the water into the bowl. Says the Bartanura, Tzedukim ein moedim b'nisuch hamayim. The Tzedukim, the Sadducees, did not agree there was such a mitzvah as nisuch hamayim. It's not specifically mentioned in the Torah. As we've mentioned on previous Mishnahs, this was Halacha l'Moshe Sinai, transmitted by Moshe Rabbeinu from Sinai, but there's no specific mention of it in the Torah directly, and therefore the Tzedukim disagreed about this mitzvah. If the Kohen was warned, lift up your hand when you're pouring the water so that we can see exactly what you're doing. The Mishnah concludes, Shepar machas, it once occurred, Nisech echod al gabe raglov. The Kohen did not pour in the container, in the bowl, but rather poured at his feet, because he disagreed and said there wasn't such a mitzvah. When the people saw him do that, the other people surrounding, Urugomuhu kol ha'om be'esrogeim, they pelted him with their esrogim, because he was not performing the mitzvah of nisuch hamayim. It mentions particularly that they pelted him with their srogim. We need to mention this in the Mishnah. Says the Bartanura, based on the Gemara. Sorry, it says the Tosfos Yontov, based on the Gemara. Lelamedcha, this teaches you, she'ein nisuch ela b'shachar, b'shas netilas lulav. If they were pelting with, throwing at this kohen, this tzeduki, they were throwing the srogim, it shows it was a time for shaking the Abba Minim, which means it was the time netilas lulav in the morning, and it tells you that this is the time that the nisuch hamayim should take place.